Oh, hey everybody, me Muta, and it's that crazy uncle time again, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there's a lot of big questions the world has to ask. You know, why is the Earth flat, for instance? How does T-Series get away with blatant botting? Let's be fucking real here. And how does a VPN work? You know, in today's world, I see VPN being thrown around quite honestly everywhere to an extent. You know, in the digital age, you know, with the deep webs and the Tors and the wacky V-Buck download generators. You got mainstream media basically throwing out VPNs. You know what I mean? You got that grandpa mentioning shit to you. So I figured it's time for good old Muta to set the record straight. Now, a bunch of people wanted a VPN video since I made that Black Ops scam stuff. And in the video I said that you shouldn't trust a free VPN, and I totally stand by what I just said, because VPNs are an interesting little thing. So we're going to break this video up into multiple parts. I'll explain to you what a VPN is to begin with. A VPN, or virtual private network, so to speak, is a service where basically, in layman's terms, you're connecting your computer, you're tunneling yourself into another node or another computer or another system, and they're the ones who are routing the internet to them and packaging it up and sending it to you in a nice encrypted format that usually just looks to anyone else like you're connecting to a separate system. It doesn't really show what you're looking through, which is the interesting thing and why you would want to use one, because it basically conceals your internet activity and what you're doing. In theory, however, not every single thing is so cut and dry. See, VPNs are used in many scenarios, a lot of them good and sometimes bad. Like anything in life, there's a good and bad to everything. That's just the long and short of it. So we'll go through, I guess, 4 scenarios why a VPN would be used. Scenario A. All right, let's assume that you have Canadian Netflix, right? Let's just go with a more personal, hard-hitting example. Canadian Netflix is like Syria. Kind of a tragedy at this moment in time, and a lot of people just want to seek refuge into better parts where Netflix is a lot more usable. Now, I'm not saying that I myself would use a VPN on Netflix. God, no, that's against Netflix terms and services, but plenty of Canadians do. All right, I think we're sick and tired of watching The Human Centipede fucking 2, and we probably want to watch a movie in more recent time. That's about the long and short of it. You use a VPN to get past geographical restrictions, right? Let's assume that the US has some cool show that you want to watch. Well, you shouldn't be punished because you live in fucking Romania. Well, you can VPN yourself right into the United States of America and be able to view the American internet. Woo! Howdy there, partner. Now, scenario B. Let's assume that that you're watching that dank hentai, as the kids these days say. Look, I'm not judging you. Jesus might, okay? But I ain't gonna judge you. All right, I have a rule of thumb. If you can't show your grandma, you know, without her going, "Oh Lord, what are you watching here?" then maybe it's bad and you should probably use a VPN, or at the very least turn on that secret mode on your web browser. You know what I'm talking about. You know that shortcut. That's one reason. You know, if you don't want anybody spying on what kind of porn you watch, what kind of dirty adult content you may scowl upon, then that's your prerogative. I'm not judging you. Scenario C, you work for a company like Apple, Microsoft, General Motors, and it's a big company. You're dealing with sensitive files. They can't afford for you to just download it off basic internet lines or have an ISP look into it. They give you a VPN service where everything is encrypted their way. We'll go back to that in a bit. Scenario D is interesting. All right, this is one that's pretty serious. Let's assume that you're a journalist in Saudi Arabia. God fucking forbid that's your situation, but let's assume that that's the career path you went with in that region. You're a brave person, but you want to write something against the Saudi Arabian government, but you're afraid that your balls are going to get cut off. Well, if you use a VPN, you can make sure that you stay relatively concealed. Provided you're not screaming out who you are and what you wrote, you should be relatively okay. See, those are 4 lovely scenarios why a VPN would be used. Now, when I said free VPNs, I think by now some people have clicked into their heads that VPN services aren't exactly always trustworthy. See, VPNs basically allow you to tunnel your internet traffic through another system. That requires you to trust whatever VPN you're using pretty effectively, because again, you're giving them your data to basically route through, so they're able to see what you're sending. Now, when I mentioned VPNs being of a free quality, nothing in life is free, ladies and gentlemen. So realistically, if you're not paying for something, you're probably paying for the fact that they're checking through your data. And whenever a free service checks through your data, they're probably running it through an AI and mining out key information. Basically, they're using you to make cash. And if you feel comfortable with that, if you're okay, if you just want to watch that Canadian, if you want to bypass Canadian Netflix, hey, that's your prerogative. You can do it. I'm not going to fucking control you. Go for it. But let that be known as a possible negatory in the grand scheme of things. Now, VPNs over time have gotten notoriously interesting to try and purchase and use. Normally I go with the the paid option. And the paid option isn't too bad. Usually you end up paying like maybe $6 a month. So if you value your data and what you're doing on it and you want to stay concealed, then that's great. But again, it's not always so cut and dry. See, this is the interesting part. You have to watch out for something called the Five Eyes arrangement or the treaty. Usually now it's like 14, 15 eyes. It's expanded over the fucking years. Basically, it's a human it's a human law. It uses human intelligent human to basically communicate and transfer data between countries that are part of a treaty. So usually it was created around the times for intelligence agencies to share data. But it's extended to the point where governments that participate in it usually run surveillances of a pretty large variety on its citizens. So for example, the United States, God bless America, and the National Security Agency for checking what the fuck you do on the internet on a daily basis. You guys remember when Edward Snowden, a long time ago, techies might know when he leaked PRISM? Basically, the US runs an algorithm, runs an AI to check what people are sending and whatnot. So if you Google, I don't know, terror hentai too many times, you get put on a watch list, and so on and so forth. Many countries are part of an agreement like this. The United Kingdom, Canada, for instance, God bless Canada, but fuck, they know exactly what I'm doing on the internet. VPNs are important when you're purchasing from areas that aren't part of a treaty. You can find an active one on the internet right now. I'll try to link one in the description of the video or comment. But usually this treaty is something you want to be mindful of, because when I mentioned the VPN service that was on BetterNet as part of the Black Ops video, that one had its jurisdiction in Canada, meaning that even if you use the service in like other parts of the world, you connect it through like a South Korean branch or a branch that was in like the Seychelles or something, as long as the company is hosted within a Five Eyes treaty country, like Canada, then the government can run a subpoena and check exactly what kind of data is being transferred. So really, you're paying to hide your data, but not really, because the government can see what the fuck you're going to do anyway. So you get the point. You're not exactly getting what you want out of it. Now, in this instance, I'm not being paid by anyone. So without anybody saying that I'm a paid shill in this instance, I'm really not getting paid by anyone, trust me. But there are two VPN services I myself have personal experience with. One of them is NordVPN, which is one of the, I think, cheapest VPNs to get and one of the best. And then ExpressVPN. Now these two VPNs are lucky in this instance because they're hosted in countries that aren't part of this agreement at all. ExpressVPN, for instance, is hosted in the British Virgin Islands, where it only stores a connection log, which really doesn't have too much data that's going to leak out for what you're doing on that VPN in that time and instance. It doesn't have anything to do with data retention laws, which is what the Five Eyes agreement is all about. They don't have to store what you've been doing, which means you can do something that's good or something that's bad. Not that I'm saying you should do anything that's bad, but whatever you do on these VPNs will not be retained as far as they say. Again, the trust arguments comes into this over and over again. You are routing your data through a service. Whether you pay for it or not, you have to trust that service on your own with the data you are sending, which means even if you're using a VPN, I would highly advise never to use passwords or sign into banking applications. Just use your internet service provider in that instance. They're not going to fucking steal your bank details. And if they do, sue their ass. But in this instance, VPNs are a complicated affair, and I just want to set the record for what really is what in this instance, because it's something that for people to go out and buy can be a little bit confusing, and I don't want you wasting money on something that isn't going to get you what you want, because sometimes you'll end up paying more for a VPN that still retains data anyways, and it's like, what's the point of buying it when it's not even doing the thing that it's really supposed to be doing in the first place. Now, VPNs always have their place, even outside of downloading questionable data from a bay of pirates or watching that new Lena Rose documentary. VPNs are used in a lot of companies. When we go back to our original point, it's used to analyze data, which means that, I don't know, for example, let's say that you work for Apple and the iPhone specs got leaked. 100 people have access to it. If the VPN is properly made, which it is, the security team can look into who accessed a certain file, narrow the list down, and end up firing, suing, or sending away somebody, quote unquote. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I really have to say about virtual private networks. I didn't want to make this a virus investigations video, but I think this fits very well into it. Next week we'll be looking at the coin mining viruses. That's going to be a fun time next time we enter on to virus investigations. But for now, I wanted to make this video sort of as like a PSA and an interesting little video. I know the topic can be pretty fucking dry, but I hope I made it fun for you. I hope you had a little bit of a giggle out of it. And at the end of the day, I hope you learned something. Don't worry, we'll be getting back to some absolutely fucked-hearted gaming soon, because I've had an insomnia binge and I just can't get away from them shitty games. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.